Welcome back to the Two More Cast podcast. My name is Nick, and today we're going to talk with the director of the KFNW, Marvin Forte. We're going to cover the 2024 season and bring you some updates. What's going to happen next year for 2025. Good morning, Marvin.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on, Nick. Happy to talk to you about it.
Thanks for being here for sure. So, how was the overall consensus on the 2024 season? Did you beat your goals?
Yeah, we did. We had a really strong season. Membership was about the same, and participation was a little higher in some and a little lower than others, just depending on where it was and how the dates came out. Our biggest event of the year was Lake Wallula, and some of your folks watching may remember that was a tricky one because it originally was scheduled for a Saturday, but the wind was so bad we had to push it back to Sunday, and we thought we were going to lose a big chunk of anglers. We thought we were going to lose about 30% of the anglers that weren't going to be able to make it, but they rallied, and we ended up only losing about 10 or 15%. So we ended up with 83 anglers by the end of the day that made the awards and everything, and we had somewhere close to 90 that actually participated. So we didn't lose too many. That was our biggest event of the year in terms of numbers. Some of the other numbers we had, Idaho, the biggest event we had there was 34 anglers at Lake Lowell. Oregon, the biggest event was we had a tie for Siltcoos Lake and the Upper Willamette River, both with 39. They actually had a little more than that, but some of the guys left early, didn't come to the awards, so they end up getting taken off the roster after they do that. And then the biggest one in Washington was Lake Whatcom. So it's interesting. The first event for all three was the biggest, and we had a couple of ties or near ties later on in the season, but that's pretty typical. We get bigger numbers early on. Some really interesting stats that I was doing and preparing for our banquet and the awards. The biggest average length was Siltcoos Lake, the first event for Oregon. The average fish length for all the fish that were on the leaderboard was 17.2 inches, which
Wow,
is crazy, right?
that
Like
is
that,
crazy.
when the
I
average
struggle on
was
that lake.
17.2. It was a bunch of cookie cutters, but they were like 17-inch cookie cutters, which is not bad. If you're going to get
Not
cookie
at all,
cutters, that's the way to do it.
for sure.
Uh, it was cool. And then Shack was great. The Classic was really strong. We had 23 anglers. Average length on that was tough. It was about 13.9, but Michael Mumford had the biggest fish with 19 and a half, and Brandon Hua had a couple of 19s, and of course he ended up winning it. It was a strong season overall.
It was a good year for Brandon for sure. He's really good at those classics. He came in like third last year and then came back to win it this year.
He's tried really hard every year, and he's done well. He's been on the podium, I think, ever since he started fishing with us. He came from the bass boat world, and yeah, he definitely uh, is a lot more focused on doing well than a lot of anglers. A lot of us, me included, are more about having fun and getting out there and competing, but having fun. And he is laser focused on doing well.
He's a really good fisherman, that's for sure. He's putting in his time.
Yeah. I should probably shout out to all the AOIs and everything too while we're here. So Oregon, our tour AOI was Michael Mumford. For Oregon, it was Mario Romero. And for Washington, it was Chris Williams. Chris Williams was also the Rookie of the Year for Washington. First time we've had a rookie win AOI. Brandon came close his first year, but didn't quite make it. Our other Rookies of the Year, Anthony Booth in Oregon and Dean Hills in Idaho. And then our online AOIs, Rick Thanstrom in Idaho, Jacob Jarvis in Oregon, and J.R. Rowlands in Washington. Those guys all did really well, and they all won cash, and some of them won gift cards. The tour AOIs won a $500 gift card each from Next Adventure, so that's no
Wow,
small chunk of change. Yeah,
that's well
pretty
worth the
cool.
time. For
And then
sure.
the other really cool stat that I found when I was going through all this and looking in the season, I looked to see who had the biggest limits of the year because we have a prize for that too. And in IKBF, it was Dan Zimmershed. He had 96 inches at Coeur d'Alene,
Shit.
which is for one day in the Pacific Northwest. That's a good number in the Southeast, let alone the Northwest. So
Right.
Dan gets a $250 Next Adventure gift card for that. Brandon was the best in Oregon at Siltcoos Lake. He had 91 and 3/4 inches. And then Chris Williams tied himself. Lake Wallula and Osoyoos Lake, he had 95 and a half inches. So he won the longest limit twice in Washington. So he
Shit.
gets $250 from Next Adventure as well.
He had a good season when he won like 2 in a row. Took the
Uh,
AOI.
it's impressive. And, he won the native or the tour event during the native. I guess Mario won the actual native or won the no limit. Um, but yeah, and Chris on that one, it was impressive because he did all largemouth, which is
Yeah.
in Lake Wallula is saying something. There were a few guys who did all largemouth, but he did it better than anybody else, obviously.
The OKBF had a pretty interesting season, I thought, as far as like the AOI goes, because Mario Romero didn't win a single event, but was super consistent and won the AOI. And then Michael Jarvis won 2 events and missed
And
it.
didn't win AOI. I wasn't even really in the running for it at the end.
Right.
Yeah, that's a great point because it's something I always try and hammer home to people is they think about AOI as being winning, events, but it really isn't. It's about consistency. And the schedule the last few years it's been you had to get 4 out of 5 events was what counted for your AOI. So you could tank one event or not show for one event, you'd still be in the running. But after that, I mean, you got to be near the podium in just about every event. And I remember in our last event at the Upper Willamette, Mario struggled at that event. He didn't do very well, and he was worried, and with good reason. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he was vulnerable, but he just barely hung on with his scores that he already had because that was his throwaway was the last event of the year, and he held on to get the lead. It's great. He's fished with us quite a few years, and he's never been that close to AOI. He's never had a season as good as he did this year, so it's cool to see people rising up through the ranks to get there. We had a few of those this year. People who made it on the podium, who fished with us for years and have never made it on the podium, and that's cool. I like to see that.
It's one of my favorite parts of following the sport is that you never know. You know, like anybody could win it any given day. They're all talented.
Yeah,
Dang.
absolutely. And then, of course, our two biggest fish of the year, I should talk about. J.R. Rowlands caught a 22 and 3/4 inch largemouth. That was the biggest largemouth anybody caught of the year. But then Rick Thanstrom with that 23-inch smallmouth, which I know you've already talked about, or 23 and a half inch smallmouth rather, uh,
Yeah. Giant.
set a new record for all of KFNW. The biggest record before that was a 23-inch smallmouth. But yeah, 23 and a half that's just a massive fish.
Anywhere, like anywhere in the world at 23.5 inches.
Oh
Is
yeah,
huge.
I don't care where you go. I mean, the guys back east that fish the Susquehanna, the St. Lawrence, all those people, they see that fish and like, wait a minute, whoa,
This came out of where?
we didn't know you guys had big fish like that up there. Yeah,
That's the most popular comment that I ever get, a response from like a video or something. Like, I didn't know you guys had that big of fish out there. Like, we
totally.
got it
And
all.
the funny thing is, he caught that in the online, um, and normally we don't talk about where people caught fish in the onlines, but there's like Rick lives right next to Door Shack. He lives like an
Right.
hour away from Door Shack. So it was kind of, and you look at the fish and you're like, oh, that's a Door Shack fish. You can see it instantly.
What is it with the door
So
shack
yeah,
fish, you think? Like, how do they get so big?
it's the food. It's
Is it
kokanee. There's
the
so many kokanee in there, and those bass are kokanee eaters. They just pig out on kokanee all year long. And it's like the big bass you see in California that eat trout all year. It's the
Oh, yeah.
same thing. They've just got this food supply that is really good for them to grow. It's funny though. You see the smaller fish at Dwarf Shack, and they're skinny. They have to get big enough to start eating kokanee, and then they can grow.
That's funny. I should go check out the kokanee fishing. I haven't done that yet. Door shack.
Yeah, I haven't done it here at all yet, but I know some folks who do it and have a lot of fun doing it and fill up the freezer with them too. They're good eating.
Sure. Did you see anybody like traveling more often through the 2024 season?
We sure did. Jonathan Bush was the real record holder there. Let's see if I have that info. Yeah. So Jonathan Bush, if we count all live events from April through September, including the West Coast Championship and the season openers, Jonathan Bush had 12 events, 12 live events that he hit during the season. You know,
Dedication.
from April to September, that's crazy. That's a lot, or really till October, because I'm counting the Classic too. That Jonathan didn't make the Classic. Next was Trey Potts. He had 10 events. He did make the Classic, so he was in there. Chris Williams had 9. He also made the Classic, and Ed French had 8, and he was at the Classic for one day, but he struggled to get his fish uploaded and didn't have a great bag anyway, so he came home a day early. He was the only one who didn't fish both days up there.
Man, that happens for sure. For sure. So you met all your goals for 2024. The season went good, pretty much. No issues or
Yeah, it went as we planned for sure. You know, I guess we can segue into 2025 with that because we've noticed some issues some struggles that we've had both in the online challenges and in the live events that we wanted to address for 2025. And so, a few of those with the online challenges, there are trends that we've noticed. Throughout the season, participation starts pretty high early in the season and then drops off and eventually really drops off, like maybe 2/3 of the way through the season. And we feel like that's partly because we've got a few anglers that end up dominating in those divisions, and other people get discouraged and don't want to try to keep up or feel like they can't keep up. And then same thing through the years, we've seen a trend with participation where the first few years that we're doing online challenges in a state, it grows, gets more popular, we get more people doing it, and then that tapers off and gets less popular. And so Oregon, who's been doing it the longest, we just didn't have great numbers this year in the online challenges. And Idaho, sort of the same thing. They started a little later than us, and they had some drop off as well. Washington is sort of at that peak. They got started a lot later than the other two states with doing a full schedule of online challenges. And they sort of did have a pretty strong season last year, and it was pretty good this year as well. But it's starting to go down a little bit. Um, One of the challenges we have with it too is because of all the different online challenges you can upload to the monthlies, like let's say Columbia River, for example. You catch a fish on the Columbia River, and let's say it's the month of bronzeback. So you can submit it to Oregon monthly for bronzeback, Washington monthly for bronzeback. You could submit it to the Oregon season long, the Washington season long, and then the KFNW season long. So you've got 5 events that same fish has been uploaded in, and we've got different judges that are judging those. So that fish might get judged by 2 or 3 different judges in 5 different events. It's time consuming. It's a challenge for us to keep up with it, honestly.
seems like a lot of
So that's
resources that are used for that and time.
well, that's it. And the time we spend doing that is less time we can spend making other things better.
Right.
It just chews up all of our spare time that we have. I also noticed as I was going through that angler confusion is an issue with that many events. Um, I would find a fish that somebody had uploaded to the season long, but they didn't upload it in the monthly, and it was eligible, or vice versa. So anglers were getting confused, and they were uploading, and those were like citation fish I was seeing that were missing from. Like it's one thing if you don't upload a 14 incher, but when you don't upload a 20 or 21 in one of that really affects your score. Um,
Right.
and then we always had a problem too every year with some people getting involved with the online challenges who really were just kind of dipping their toes in and they hadn't read the rules. They didn't know what was going on. They would get fish denied or they would do something that got them disqualified. Um, and that never feels good. It doesn't feel good, especially if somebody signs up for a season long and a month or two in, they do something to break the rules and get disqualified and can't fish the rest of the season. That kind of blows.
Oh yeah.
So that was some of the challenges, the struggles that we've had with online challenges. And as a result, we're making a change there. We really couldn't find good solutions to a lot of this. So we're going to discontinue all the monthly online challenges for 2025. The monthlies are just going to go away. We'll also get rid of the divisional season longs. So the state specific season longs will go away. We'll keep the KFNW season long, but it won't be an open anymore. It'll become a sanctioned event, which means anglers will still be eligible for like a citation pin if they get a citation fish and that, which they weren't before if they did in the KFNW, but they will now. And we'll try and pay out the top 15% of anglers
Awesome.
in that. So it'll be kind of a wide spread of the money. That's one of the other things about online challenges that's tough is we don't want to pay a lot of money in the online challenges because it's too hard for us to make sure everybody's doing things above board because we're not out there with them, like we are at the tour events.
That
So
makes
those are
sense for
some of
sure.
the changes. Yeah, yeah, those are some of the changes we've looked at for that. And then
Will that online challenge, will they still qualify for the classic?
I'm glad you asked that. I had that in my notes. I didn't say it. No, that's the other big change. Is it used to be if you were the best in your season long for your state, you qualified for the classic. The first two places of that. And no, we've decided we're not going to have any online path to get into the classic. The classic's a live event. We just feel like it makes more sense that people have to do well in a live event on that day, when the pressure's on, that is a little bit more fair way for them to qualify and get in there. I know some people are going to be really unhappy about that one, and we toiled about it a lot, but we feel like that's the most appropriate way to do it.
That
We're
makes
really
sense too, and it's going
looking,
forward, it's not like you're just dropping everything.
yeah, yeah. I mean, certainly this past year, all of it's the same. Those guys did make it into the classic, but yeah, going forward, I think that's going to be the way we're going to handle it. And what we're doing is we're putting more focus on the tour events. So some of the problems we had with the tour events over the past 5 years, our schedule was so busy that it was really hard for people to be able to attend a lot of events. We talked about Jonathan Bush hitting 12 events, but he had to travel a ridiculous amount to do that. And often, like at one point, his wife put her foot down and said, "You're not going this weekend." He's like, "Okay." So he would have had 13 probably if she hadn't
That's
intervened.
wild.
But so that's always been a challenge is just how busy the schedule was. And events ended up cannibalizing other events. People would have to choose. They'd have to say, well, I'll do that event, but I'm not going to do that. Including like the West Coast Championship, because that's in the middle of August. So then if we would have a tour event like a week before or 2 weeks before, that's a lot. I mean, that's a lot to do a tour event somewhere and then turn around and travel down to California. Um,
Yeah.
it
And I've
also
read
affected
Facebook
if
posts
we,
too that people were talking about it, having to choose
yeah,
between, what was it, the west side of Washington or going down to California.
right, right. And most people don't have the privilege of being able to say, well, I'll just travel to both of them. No big deal. I mean, if you're retired and still fishing a lot or something, great, more power to you. But most of us have to work,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
and most of us have families that want us to be around more often too. So it's only fair, right?
Right.
We had two events that ended up on the same date because of the way the calendar was. Um, Siltcoos and Lake Lowell were on the same date this past year, and that has happened a few times, especially in May, which that was because we only end up with like 2 or 3 weekends in May between Memorial Day, and then we try not to overlap with Jed Rivera's Brownlee Crappie Shootout as well. We try and keep that date open. So that really limits how many dates we can do.
That's
So
true.
that was a struggle that we had. The AOI scores were complicated, by the Lake Wallula event or any kind of interdivisional event that we do like that. Idaho kind of took it in the shorts this year because of that. They had one person that was in the top 10, and then the next couple of guys that were in there, they were somewhere around 20th place or so. So we had to decide if we were going to calculate Idaho people only as Idaho people, but that didn't really make sense because if people traveled like Jonathan Bush, we were counting him in AOI too. If he fished enough events in Washington or fished enough in Oregon, we would have counted him for AOI. So it became really tricky to decide, well, who do we count in AOI and who do we not count in AOI? And so if we only looked at Idaho and only counted on that, somebody like Dan Zimmershed, who was in the running for AOI, he was in like 22nd place or something like that. Well, if I only looked at Idaho, he would have had a 98
Right.
AOI score. But with 20th place, he's got like an 80. So it really made the difference of how well somebody was going to do in AOI, whether we calculated them against the other anglers or only people in their division. And when we only do it in their division, it's hard to come up with the rules of when do we do that and when do we not do that. So that's been a problem that I've bumped into a few times over the last few years, is just trying to track AOI by state, but also doing those combined events where we're doing 2 or 3 states. That was a
Because in
long
years
answer to that.
past, you have, like, separated them in the state, right, by who's finished,
We have,
for AOI.
and it was less of an issue in those years, but it was still a problem.
Right. Because
Um,
people are traveling more this year than
that's right. That's
or
right.
more
I'm
people are
losing.
traveling.
I'm losing AirPod there. I lost one
Oh,
of them, but I can still hear fine. Um, and then for our judges and directors, the schedule is a real struggle. We've got somewhere between 62 and 69% of all Saturdays from April through September that we had an event. So most of our directors or judges, they were either going and helping run an event or participating in an event, or they were sitting in front of the computer at home judging, for 2/3 of their Saturdays over the summer, which makes
yeah.
them really unpopular with their significant others. Um,
It is a lot for sure.
it's a lot. And even with that, we had people who traveled more than we've ever had, more distance, and part of that was that Road Warrior Challenge, which Jason Valentin won he won the trailer from Snake River Lockers. He won the Titan X from Native Watercraft and the $500 gift card from Les Schwab Tires. So that gave some incentive for people to travel more, but
Oh, yeah. That was one of the coolest
it's
giveaways
still tough
ever.
to do that. It was, $10,000 worth of stuff.
Man.
So when we looked at that and with the tour events, what we wanted to do for this year, we really want to grow per event participation. Our per event numbers were not stellar this year. We had some high ones, but we had some low ones too. And we wanted to create a more high level experience for our anglers. Something more akin to the Hobie B.A.S. series or the Bassmaster Kayak series, a really top tier professional level event for people. We want to improve the angler experience online, at events, at awards, the whole thing from beginning to end. We wanted to increase payout amounts, and we wanted to create more opportunities for people to qualify for the Classic. Because the way we have it the past 5 years, you had to win an event, or you had to do well in AOI, or you had to win the online challenge, like we said, AOI for that, or win the season long. Those were the only ways in. And so that was a factor in people traveling too. Like, Trey Potts came down to Oregon and won a tour event, right, with no pre-fishing, nothing. And he launched where I did too. He was fishing right near me. Um, but yeah, he came down and did that. But that's not easy to do. And
No.
the odds of you coming down and getting first place are not great. There's some real sticks in every state that are looking to beat you. Um, he had a little bit of an advantage there because we've never fished that section of river, and most of the people fishing it had never fished that section of river really either. So that helped
That's
him.
true.
Everybody was kind of on a clean slate. Um,
And it was kind of unusual
and we're
too, 'cause
looking
it
to,
was a tidewater body of water.
it was, we did the Multnomah Channel a couple of years ago, and that was also tidal water, very similar in some ways, where you really had to fish the current, but the current changed. Halfway through the day, it kind of died, and then it started going the other way. So yeah, both times that's how it worked out, with where the tides fell. But yeah, that takes some skill and paying attention. You can't just fish the things you're used to fishing. Like lakes, or you kind of know what you're working with, but with tidal water, it's tough. And then we're looking to do things better for our sponsors and for our social media, better audio visual kind of stuff as well. Um, so with all that in mind, our plan is, um, let's see if I can. What can I go over of this? I've kind of gone over that. So what we're going to do is we're going to do fewer events, and we're really going for a quality over quantity solution, for this year and going forward. Uh, we wanted we want to really consolidate our events and get people traveling to come to the events, which will increase our participation per event, and it'll allow us to focus on each event and make each event a little bit better. So all three divisions will function a little bit more like one regional series for 2025. Again, a little more like Hobie B.A.S. or Bassmaster, where they're fishing in the Northeast, the Southeast, out west as far as Texas and stuff. A lot of people, I mean, some of those elite kayak anglers that we all know their names, yeah, they travel and they do all of those events. But there are a lot of people that don't. They fish the events that are closer to them, and they just don't hit them all. Um, and obviously, those people aren't necessarily looking out for getting in the Tournament of Champions or winning AOI. But and now the dog.
I got one of
You
those too.
stop something, and the dog's going crazy. Oh, Ziggy, stop it. Okay, so back to where we were. Uh, so this will result in basically one event per month is kind of what we're looking at, between all three states. It's going to make things easier for us in terms of permitting, running the events, and judging as well. Uh, we can talk a little bit about the schedule, and maybe you can slip in an image of this so people
Yes.
can see it. But we'll do the season kickoff opens like we have, which is a team event where people can come out without being members and try it out and get to fish a less experienced angler with a more experienced angler and figure out if they like this. They'll get some tips and pointers from the veteran angler. We're going to do 3 of those. Tentatively, that's going to be Black Canyon Reservoir, Dorena Reservoir, and American Lake.
Cool.
And I'm open to doing one up in the Coeur d'Alene, Spokane area because those folks are a little further out from any of those events that we're planning. I'm just going to need to line up some volunteers to help me get that event going up there. So we might have a 4th one up in the Coeur d'Alene area or Spokane area.
That'd be
Our
cool.
first tour event of the year will be 10 Mile Lakes down in Oregon, which is, one of the premier Oregon bodies of water. That's the other change that'll happen with this is we're going to be fishing more premium bodies of water for everything, because we don't have to go to as many places as we did. That'll also be a West Coast Championship qualifier.
Cool.
And then for tour event 2, we're going back to Lake Umatilla in the Umatilla area on the Columbia River. We'll do a tour event there, and we'll combine that with the native watercraft no limit big bass power hour. Um,
Very
that's the
cool.
one where Josh Duggar caught that 23-inch smallmouth a couple years ago. So that was the previous record. So that one should be exciting.
That's
And right now, we're planning on that one not being a West Coast Championship qualifier, since it's already combined with native watercraft and everything. We'll just let that one stand on its own. For the third event of the year, we're looking at Dworshak Reservoir, and we might make that a 2-day event. Either that one or one
cool.
of the others. I'll probably put that to the members and find out. I know we've had a lot of interest in some 2-day events in the middle of the season. Brandon Hawa said to me the other day, the classic's a 2-day, but we don't get any practice doing a 2-day through the season. I'm like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And it was difficult for us to do that before. Idaho wanted to do that this year. They wanted to do a 2-day event, but it's kind of tough. I didn't want to do it just in Idaho and then not do it in Washington or Oregon. Our hands were kind of tied a lot of times by trying to keep everything consistent. Now it doesn't matter if we're doing it this way, where it's a regional. We can have one event be a 2-day. That's no problem at all. So that one may be a 2-day, and that'll probably be a West Coast Championship qualifier as well. And then let's see. Then in July, we're looking at Lake Whatcom up in northern Washington, which has fished really well the last few events that we've done there. And that'll also be a qualifier. So that's our 3 qualifiers in late April, in June, and in July. And we've got one in each state. We've got one in Oregon, one in Idaho, and one in Washington. So the challenge with that is if you fish well and you get in, great, right? You've made it by fishing your one local event. But if you want to get into the West Coast Championship by completing all 3 events, you're going to have to travel. You're going to have to travel to go to all 3 of those. And personally, I like that. I think that's great because I don't like people getting in just by showing up. But if they're going to get in just by showing up, they should have to work for it a little bit. They should have to drive a
All
bit.
right.
So
Got to
it
earn going
covers.
to California.
That's right. And then in early August, August 2nd, we've got the Upper Willamette River in Oregon again, same section that we did this year. Um, and then we take like 3 weeks off where there's nothing. And then is the West Coast Championship. So that's what this schedule really does for us, is it gives us some room in between events that people can choose to do it. Instead of feeling like they're going every weekend. So then the West Coast Championship, that's 822 to 823. And then the last event of the year will be back to Idaho in September at CJ Strike Reservoir, which is a great place to
Love that
fish.
place.
We did the classic there a few years ago, and it's just a great place to go. And then in October, the classic, we're planning to go to Potholes Reservoir.
Nice.
And Potholes it's cool because it's the most central of any of our locations. If you look at where all our people are and everything, Potholes is the closest to everybody, or the most central to everybody. Where at least it's not like it's close to. I mean, it's close for Jim Davis because he lives right there in the Tri-Cities. It's not far from him. It's 30, 45 minutes for him, but for most people, it's not that bad. You don't have to drive 6, 7 hours to get there,
Right.
except for maybe
And it's kind of like Door Shack where it offers everything too: largemouth, smallmouth, different structures and covers, and then its own
uh,
challenges as well.
Potholes is great. We did the native no limit there a couple of years ago, and unfortunately, the weather sucked. It was like
It was
110
so hot.
degrees or something. So that hurt our numbers a bit, and it hurt the fishing a little bit too. But yeah, it was very much smallmouth and largemouth affair. Kyle Zemke won it, and he did it really with all smallmouth. But people were fishing for largemouth as well, especially for those power hours. Get a big largemouth, and that's $1,000. Boom, there you go.
Oh yeah.
But Kyle won the no limit, and he won the first and the last hour with smallmouth. So he did, and he won a kayak. He won a bunch of stuff at that event, which
Yeah,
was
day.
pretty cool. Dworshak is only smallmouth though. There's no largemouth in Dworshak. It's too cold up there, I guess. but the smallmouth there are as big as largemouth, so who cares? Um, but yeah, so all these dates, and I'm going to talk about this at the presentation at the awards. And we'll post all this online too so that people can see the full presentation if they're not there at the awards. But all these are tentative. We usually wait, we usually wait until early the year of to announce the schedule because we can't even apply for permits for some of these yet. Some of them we have
Right.
and some of them we haven't. So I don't know if we're going to be able to lock these down. But the beauty of this new schedule is we have a lot more flexibility. We're going to try and keep the dates the same. If we have to change something, we might change a location um, for something. If we can't get a permit at Lake Whatcom, for example, we might go to Alder Lake or something like that, something that's kind of in the same area and on the same date. So that way people can put in for their time off from work if they have to. If they don't have to, I would recommend they wait. Um, but if they need to, because there's a deadline on them putting in, they can put in for time off. But then I wouldn't book your lodging just yet, just in case we have to change lakes. Don't book a hotel or Airbnb or unless you can get a full refund because it could change. It definitely could change, and it's likely we always have to change one or two things every year. It seems like. Um, so then the other stuff we're doing, big changes. This is the exciting stuff. So like I talked about the classic and how hard it was to get in. You had to win an event, really, was the way to get in, or he had to fish like Mario did, a really good season, full season long. Well, I think what we're going to do with the classic is the top 10% of all anglers at a tour event are all going to qualify.
Awesome.
So if you have an event with 60 anglers, 6 people are going to qualify. Well, that's a whole lot easier to think about is, oh, can I go there and can I get in the top 6? If I can get in the top 6, I'm in the classic. Boom. And that's going to be a big draw, I think, for people to come out and do it. And then, of course, we'll also do Anglers of the Year. Angler of the Year, there won't be any state Anglers of the Year anymore. It'll be KFNW Angler of the Year. There'll be one Angler of the Year for the whole thing.
That's awesome too.
And it'll be based still on 4 events, 4 out of the 6 events. So that means they can miss 2 tour events and still be in the running. If you miss 3, you're out. You're not going to have a chance at AOI. But if you, as long as you fish 4 of them, you've got a shot at it. And we'll probably take the top 5 AOIs. It's unlike those people will probably already have made it by being in the top 6 of one of the other events. But just in case somebody has some weird season where, if they're the first one out of making it, if they're first one that doesn't make the classic at every event, I don't know, they might have a shot at being in the top 5 of AOI. So maybe we'll get another couple people in there. And I think that'll make the classic a little bigger, but not a whole lot bigger. We usually qualify about 20, I think it's 25 people that can qualify, or 24 people that can qualify. And we end up with about 20 or 21. And I think we'll probably end up with about, you could have as many as 41, but that's impossible. Realistically, I think the number will be something like 36, 34, and we'll probably end up around 30 people. So it'll be a little bigger than it has been in previous years, but still not a huge event, a little smaller, more intimate event. And I like that because that allows us to fish for the classic. It allows us to fish bodies of water that maybe we can't always do for a tour event because the numbers are smaller.
Sure, that's definitely still like an elite number. You still like not everybody's gonna make it, so it's still like the guys that did the best this season are getting their spots.
That's right. And you still got to perform. I mean, finishing in the top 10% is, that's good. You're
Oh
doing
yeah,
really well. And the West Coast Championship is still top 25%. If you're in the top 25%, so 1/4 of the anglers that fish are going to make it, or you fish all 3 events. We still, for the classic, we won't do roll downs. So if you don't If you make that top 10% and you make it in 2 or 3 of the events, each time you make it, you're knocking somebody else out potentially that could have made it. We're going to stick to that. We like that because that really enforces that these people have done well.
Right.
You didn't get in by some technicality, you know.
You earned it.
That's right. You had to earn it.
Mm. I think that makes it feel better when you make it too, you know what I mean? Like, you did something, you got there, you didn't just get handed a position in this classic.
Absolutely. So then, probably the last thing on the next season that's really exciting is the money. Because we're consolidating this, the big bass boosts that we've done from our great sponsors, Three Rivers Tackle, Discount Tackle, and Dry Creek Fitters, they were upping our big bass side pots by $100. Well, with the smaller number of events we have, we're going to jump that up to 250. So you're going to
Wow.
get a $250 gift card from. I don't have those sponsors lined up yet. I've got to talk to those people about it, but yeah, I think that's a lot more attractive. That makes that big fish really exciting. We're going
And
to keep
that's including the
membership.
pot too, right? Like, you get the
That's
pot
right.
and
That's
then
right.
the gift
That's a
card.
boost. That's just an add-on, and it's usually a gift certificate to the side pot. If our if our participation is higher, then the side pots are going to be a lot bigger too. They're already pretty good, and that's another thing we can put out to the members is how much do you want to put into the side pot. It's the last year or two it's been $10. It used to be $5 years ago. If they want to jump it up to 20, we could do that, and then that side pot gets huge. Um, but that's really up to the members and what they can afford. um, we're going to keep membership at $60, and same thing we've done, we'll allow them to fish one event for $30. So if they're coming from California or something like that and they want to fish 10 mile, great, come on up, pay your $30 membership, fish that event. And if that's the only event you do all year, great. And if you make the classic or something and you want to come fish the classic, then you just do the $30 upgrade, and then you've got, or if you want to come to another event, do your $30 upgrade, and you're in. Uh, we're looking at probably upping the entry fees to $100. They were 75 this year. We're talking about going up to 100, which is still, it's lower than any of these other bigger elite series we're talking about. Those people are charging a lot more for entry fees. We feel like we need to do that to reach the payout goals that we want. I can send you a graphic on this too that has some of these projected payouts, but some projected payouts. If we have only 30 anglers show up, which is an average event this year, um, almost most of our events in Washington and Oregon, I think they were all over 30, and Idaho had a couple that were less than 30, but they also had ones that were over 30. If we only have 30, that would make first place about $2,450.
Wow.
Second place, $980. Third place, 735. And that's 163% payout. That's something I'm going to be talking more about because people don't understand that. We still get people saying, like, well, what are you taking money out and doing this for? I'm like, what are you talking about? It's 163% payout. We're paying you back. And that's because we raise money. We raise money and we give it to the anglers. You're getting paid more than the anglers have put in. Uh, the more anglers we get, that percentage diminishes a little because then it's based more on entry fees, but it's still over 100 until we get up to some crazy number, like well over 100, that it gets down below 100%. So at 50 anglers, we're looking at first place being 3250, 3,250. Second place 1,300. Third place 975. Fourth place 390. Fifth place 130. And that's sort of my sweet spot. If we can hit 50 this first year doing this on average for most of our events, that'll be okay. And if we can hit 60 or so, I'll be happy. And hopefully a few events like the Umatilla one with the native event, hopefully we'll get over 100 for that one. If we can get closer to 100 for all of them, I mean, fantastic. But I know people are going to want to kick the tires and see how this goes. They're going to sit back and see how it goes a little bit. Some people are.
But we're hoping that these big payouts draw them out. 70 anglers, you're looking at $4,050 for first place. Now, that's fewer anglers than we had at Lake Wallula. We didn't have
Mm.
70 anglers there, or we had more than 70 anglers there. We had 83. And of course, we didn't hit that for any of the other events, but that means Lake Wallula would have paid over 4,000, well over $4,000 for first place,
Wow.
um, if we can hit
And
those numbers.
and it seems feasible because now instead of going to 3 different tournaments or for Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, everybody's consolidating into 1.
That's
Those
right.
numbers should combine. The 50-50, the goal of 50 shouldn't be hard to
It shouldn't
get
be.
to.
All we have to do is get a few people from each state to travel. Like when we're doing 10 mile, I don't expect, you know, 50 people from Washington and 50 people from Idaho to make that trip. Although from like Boise, it's not that terrible. They're kind of due west from there, um, but they got to go over the mountain range. But yeah, we're not going to get those kind of numbers, but we don't need it. Like we already with just Oregon alone, we should have 40 to 50 at 10 mile. So all I got to add is 10 from Washington and 10 from Idaho. And now I'm looking at 60 to 70 anglers. And if it's 15 instead of 10, well then yeah, now I'm looking at 80 anglers. I'm up in that over $4,000 for first place kind of range. And at that 70 anglers, it pays over 1,000 for first, second, and third. Fourth place is 486, and then the rest, fifth, sixth, and seventh, are a little over 100. So they at least get their entry fee back. That's kind of what we try and do with those last few. Um, and then the last big news, payout wise, I think for the first time ever this next year, we're going to have an entry fee for the classic. And I've loved the fact that we haven't. I really like that about it. It makes it hard for us to come up with really great payouts. I just can't raise that much cash to give people a giant payout, a really giant payout. But by charging at least $100 entry fee, maybe 250 if I can get people to go for that, that allows us to do some crazy stuff with payouts. Like first place for the classic would be 5 to 10 grand. Second place would be 2,500 to 5 grand, and third place would be 1,500 to 2,500. So that's a lot of money.
Those
Um,
are good numbers.
and that's what we did with one thing that got me thinking about that was that's what we did with the side pot this year. I asked the folks fishing the classic, what do you want the side pot to be? How much do you want to put in? Do you want to put in 20? Do you want to put in 50? Do you want to put in 100? And and they were game for doing so the big bass payout was pretty big for the classic, even though it was only, like 21 anglers.
That's crazy. Does, anything gonna change as far as, like, the WKBF, no KBF, no KBF? Are they still gonna exist, or is it all gonna just
They will
form
still
into the
exist.
W?
They will still exist, and like when we do 10 mile, we'll say this is 10 mile. It's KFNW 10 mile in association with OKBF. And one
Okay.
reason we're doing that is we don't know what's going to happen in the future. During, as we work through this, we may change things a little bit more. We may tweak them as we see how it goes. Um, and we also like the ability to do local events. One thing I didn't mention with those 3 season openers, like those will be local events. Those are specifically local events, but we're going to do them all on the same day this year, which helps the schedule a lot. So each of those will be happening at the same time. It's real easy to judge those because there's only 3 fish per angler, and there's usually not a lot of fish because it's early in the year. Um, so no problem. We'll have a couple of us that will be able to do the judging for all 3 of those. We'll be able to keep up with that. But those will be OKBF, WKBF, IKBF, and I'm open to doing some other things. We're just going to have to see how it goes this year. We'll probably do some more onlines as well. We won't do the monthlies every month, but we'll do some pick your days. Like the double trouble's always a popular one. We could do a double trouble, pick your day. The charity fishathon, we may bring back that. We didn't have people signing up for it this year, so we ended up not doing it. But we'd like to bring that back. And and with the open schedule, I think it'll be easier to get people to participate in those, especially if they're more one-off events. And the pick your day solves the issue of, people that can go fishing often. That's hard to keep up with in a monthly. People that can go out, 8 times a month versus people that can go out 3 or 4 times a month. It's hard to compete. But the pick your day sort of eliminates that, because then it's just like a live tournament. But you get to go whichever day you want.
That's a crazy one you gotta plan for too, like, the weather, you get all kinds and you have to pick your day early, you
Oh
don't get to
yeah,
pick it as
yeah.
it's
You're
coming.
looking at the Solunar tables, and you're looking at the weather, and you're looking at the wind. And what's the best day? And of course, you do all that guesswork, and then you're wrong. Like the day before you went, people killed it, and the day you went, there's nothing. I've done that a few times. I went out the day that there was like 20-mile-an-hour wind and rain the whole time, and I'm like, slugging it. Didn't get
Terrible.
fish.
Are there
But
any
yeah,
plans of, like, reaching out to, like, Montana or,
that
Utah to see if they'd
that is
come on?
part of the goal with this, and you know, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's not happening this year, but in the future, I would love to find a way to eliminate membership and make this an open series where it's all an open series. And I think that would help for what you're asking there, for people coming from out of state to do an event. If they didn't have to pay any membership, I mean, they only have to pay $30 now if they do it, which isn't bad, but I think it would help eventually. But I've got to raise a lot more cash to do that. I've got to raise more sponsorship money to replace that membership money, because that pays for a lot of our operations, our insurance and our permits and all that stuff. We need that money. We need it early in the year. So eventually I'd like to go that. We do have people who fish from out of state. We've got some people who fished from Wyoming. We've had people come from Montana. I don't think we've had anybody from Utah. They're they're pretty busy there. They've got a good group there that does tournaments throughout the season, and so it's a little tough to get them out. But they can get up to like CJ Strike in September. It's not very far for them. So I'd love to attract more Utah people. We've definitely had some folks from California who've come up. We've had, I don't know, 3 or 4. And we've tried every year, the last few years, we have tried twisting Greg Blanchard's arm into coming up here and doing the native event, doing the native no limit. And he really was looking at doing it this year. He was seriously considering, but his schedule turned out that he just couldn't do it. We were
Yeah.
talking to him about it when we were down for the native no limit down at Clear Lake earlier this year. And he'd love to do it. He'd love to come up here and fish. And I warned him before the Umatilla event. I said, we're going to be catching some huge smallmouth up here. We're talking like 22 plus. And then that was the year Josh caught a 23. And I sent him a picture. I said, I told you. He's like, oh, I know. I should have come. So yeah, we're trying to get him up. And anytime we can do something like that, that gets people out too, because they just want to come out and fish with Greg, or come out and fish with
Yeah.
whomever we could get that's kind of a name like that.
He's definitely a legend. You don't even have to mention his last name, here's what you're talking about.
Exactly. Greg, the kayak angler. Yeah.
That's fu well, I mean, with these big payouts like this, you'd think it's gonna grab some attention from some out-of-state people, and they're just gonna jump on.
That's my hope. Between the classic qualification being so much easier, where top 10% you get a chance at it, the big payouts, um, and I think once people see what the changes we're going to make, like Jim Davis made some great advances with the presentation of his awards, and we're looking to do something that's a really high level awards presentation that maybe they haven't seen at a kayak tournament before. Instead of a bunch of guys standing around in a parking lot somewhere. We've all done those and been in those and seen
Oh,
those,
yeah.
and but yeah, we're just trying to upgrade the quality of this where it really feels like a premier event. Because we can't wait around for these other people to do it out here. We waited around for a long time, and I'm kind of done waiting around. We're just going to do it ourselves, and we'll do it at that high level. As long as we get the sponsors. That's what it really comes down to, and that's what my work is right now for the next number of months, is just really hammering sponsorship. And I wanted to be able to announce a sponsor when I got on here with you and at the awards, and I'm that close. There's somebody who's really interested in being a really predominant sponsor for us, but I can't quite spill the beans on it yet. So we're going to have to keep that quiet for the moment.
You've gotten some really good sponsors over the years. It's pretty wild just to watch it happen. Les Schwab.
Yeah, this year was fantastic between Next Adventure, who've been a sponsor of us from the beginning. Before I even took over, Next Adventure was a sponsor. And then Diamond Parking and Self Storage. They've been great. And Jim Carey works there and he fishes with us, so that we have a little bit of an in there, which is great. And we super appreciate them and him for sponsoring us the past couple of years. Rogue Ales and Spirits came on this year and were a big sponsor for us. And of course, after the awards on Saturday, we're gonna walk over to Rogue Eastside Pub, and everybody's gonna have some food and have some beers over there. So we're happy to kind of pay it back to them a little bit for their support this year. And then Native Watercraft with the Titan X. We're giving a Titan X away on Saturday, and we're giving a paddle away. I'm in the running for that paddle. I can't win the Titan X, but I fish Silk Goose with a paddle. So I'm in the running to win that paddle. And I usually don't take anything, but damn it, if I fish that event with a paddle. And so if I win that paddle, I'm taking it because it's a nice paddle. Bending
Is it
Branches.
a Bending Branches again? Okay, that's my next question.
And then, of course, Snake River Lockers was a big sponsor. Like you said, Les Schwab. I've worked on Les Schwab for about 3 years trying to get them to sponsor us. And they're always really responsive and really nice. And they turn us down every year. And I'm like, okay, can I try next year? Yes. Okay. So I keep trying. And I tried this year and they said no. I'm like, all right. And then I came up with this Road Warrior thing because Diamond wanted to donate a Titan X and Snake Rivers wanted to donate a trailer. I'm like, So I contacted both of them. I said, what do you guys think about this idea, this crazy idea of this Road Warrior thing for people that fish the most events? And they're like, oh, I like it. So then I said, it just needs something else. So I went back to Les Schwab. I said, okay, we're doing this Road Warrior thing. Are you sure you won't give us like $400 or $500 gift cards? The money's coming back to you. Can you just do that for us? And she's like, tell me more. So then, yeah, I got him on the hook this time, and they finally did it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was thrilling having them, and of course, NRS has been a long-term sponsor of ours. I hate to start mentioning sponsors because I'm going to forget somebody, but all our tackle sponsors, I mentioned those three tackle shops that are sponsors, Three Rivers Discount Tackle and Dry Creek Outfitters are bait manufacturers, ZR Custom Tackle, Bunker Baits, Pacific Northwest Bass Candy.
Oh yeah.
I think I got all of them. There's just so many, and I hate to leave any of them out. Let's see. I've got it right here. Let's make sure I don't leave anybody out. Got all those. Ducket fishing. We had a ducket rod at every event this year. Somebody won a ducket rod, and at the Classic, somebody won 2 ducket rods. So they were a great sponsor. Dakota Lithium, of course. How could I forget Dakota Lithium? I'm on the Dakota team, and they've been a long-term sponsor of ours with batteries and battery-related gear. NRS, Les Schwab. Boggs Footwear has been huge for us. We gave away a $100 gift card at every event this year for Boggs Footwear, and they make fantastic stuff. All of our anglers, me included, I've got a pair of their boots right here. Great stuff. Good quality. Yeah. Eco Fishing, long-term sponsor as well. Nets, grips, coolers, a little bit of everything we've done with them. Shelta, another long-term sponsor of ours. Those hats are just amazing, and they give us these cool sun protection kits with hat and gloves and gaiters and everything else. Yak Attack, this year, Yak Attack didn't really do any sponsorship. They were kind of revamping their program. I'm hoping that they come back to us next year. Bending Branches, we talked about. RoboHawk, another great one for tethers, which I I failed to use my RoboHawk tether at the first day I went out fishing this spring, and caught the biggest largemouth I've ever caught in Oregon. I got it on the board and took a quick picture. It was about 22 inches.
Jeez.
And then the thing flipped and hit my hand and knocked the phone out of my hand and into the pond. Because I couldn't find part of my RoboHawk tether. I couldn't find the little card that went in the case. And of course, like a week later, I'm cleaning out the car and I find those damn extra cards. They're in there. They were in my car the whole time, and I just didn't find them. So that taught me a lesson there.
You only do that once. Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah. I've been really good about always having a tether, but it burned me that time. And then the last is kayak cushion. They donated a kayak cushion to us this year, and of course we sold some kayak cushions. I've got some more merch stuff that's popping up too. We're gonna do some hoodies. Those are on the website now. We're gonna be selling hoodies, and membership is live on the website as well by this time. That people see this, they can go on there and join up for next year. And we're doing a sale on membership. They'll get $10 off if they sign up before November 16th. I think that's right. Let me see.
I should jump
Yeah.
all over that.
November
$10. That's a good
16th. Save $10. Yeah, it's $50 instead of 60, so it's the old price. And then, like we do every year, we're doing this early bird. So if you sign up in November, you get 6 chances to win back your membership. Isn't that great? Got the
timing worked out.
And then if you sign up in December, you get 3 chances to win back your membership. And if you sign up in January, you get 1 chance to win back your membership. We'll name winners at the end of each of those months. So yeah, there's some incentive there to get on and sign up. We want to get people signed up, and that money honestly helps us. That money is what we use to pay for permits and start paying for awards and stuff. We're going to upgrade the awards a lot too this coming year.
Awesome. Is there a place that does that, or do you just design that yourself?
I design it, and then there's somebody local that I have that does the engraving, the wood engraving, and we're trying to upgrade it a little bit this year to make it a little fancier, a little more special. The classic one's kind of fancy and special. It's kind of cool.
It is
But
cool.
we're definitely, for all the tour events, we're going to try and upgrade that to something. I don't know if we're going to have the giant trophy, Heisman trophy. But,
Brandon's running out of room on his wall.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, we're going to try and make it a little bit more special.
Very cool. It's exciting, I think. It's good. It's going to be good growth. Good looking forward going.
We're excited about it. I know some people are going to be like, oh, I don't know. And some of the assistant directors and stuff, we got all those folks involved in these talks, and some of them were a little apprehensive about it. But the more we got into it and looked at what it meant in terms of time and money and participation, it starts to get really exciting. I think it's going to be really great. The first year, we might have a little growing pains just to try and ramp up to that. I hope not. I hope people just embrace it. But it might take a year for people to see what happens and start seeing the big payouts and seeing the videos of the awards and being like, oh, okay, I should have gone and done that. I'm hoping by event 2, people be converted. They'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go and do it.
Yeah, it's definitely good. It's definitely the right direction. I mean, that's where like you said, the Hobie was going, and Bassmaster, the Kayak Bassmaster.
Yeah, it's it's just it's a sustainability thing. We realized that it was hard to sustain it at the level we were doing it. So hopefully we can keep doing this for a long time the way it is. Because I mean, that ultimately that was the other option, is don't do it anymore. If it's too much and we can't get it done, it could just go away, and that would suck. We really don't want to see it go away after what we've built and all the work we've put in and all the anglers. We don't want to take that away from them. So making it smaller but better felt
Yeah.
like a better solution, and it'll allow people, like, it'll be a more special event. Like, you'll be waiting a month or two for the next event you're going to go to, and getting ready for it, and going and pre-fishing it, and then going and doing the event. If we do a 2 day at Dwarshak, it's a beautiful uh, lake
Yeah.
with tons of camping and everything. Bring the family and make it a whole, like, vacation in the middle of the year.
Absolutely. And the 3 weeks off in between events for the classic's good too. 'Cause the classic's turning into like an elite event where you
It
can earn
really is.
spots and like some really good incentives in that stuff.
I mean, so many hammers down there in NorCal, and of course, people travel from all over. Some of my old friends from Arizona, a lot of those guys come out and fish that every year, and real sticks. Bryce Gibbs and Brad Coolin and some of these other people that have done really well at that event. It's always great, and the people from Southern California come up, Nevada, Utah. I mean, I don't know how he's done it, but two two West Coast Championship wins in the, like, 4 years we've been doing it, from Cayman, from Utah,
Oh
is
yeah.
impressive.
Rasmussen, right?
Yeah, just super impressive that he's been able to do that twice.
Yeah, that's definitely an accomplishment.
Yeah, yeah, against those people. I mean, we always
Yeah,
have over 100 people, 100, 120, 130, something like that, and they're all sticks. I mean, they're all good. We don't have the hobbyist anglers. They're all people who've decided to make the trip and do it.
definitely. Yeah, it was cool to see this year. I guess I followed it more this year than last year. It was awesome.
Yeah, we're hoping it's a good event this year. I got to get started on that soon too, along with James Snyder and Mark Chrisman. We're the three directors for that, so we got to get our plans together for that.
You're involved in almost everything, really. The
Too much.
native team, yeah.
Well, yeah, all the limit stuff. I'm one of the guys that does that, so yeah, that keeps me busy too. Our last one of those is coming up next weekend, the 16th,
Where's that one at?
Lake Fork,
Oh,
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah. I went and ran that one last year, but I've got a couple guys from Colorado that are on the native team are going down to run that one in person. So I'll be helping from home, but I don't have to go down there for it this time. I didn't get to,
Very
I
cool.
went down there. I didn't even get to fish, which was like,
Yeah. It's the not perk of running everything.
yeah,
The consequences. Oh, it's exciting. I think it's exciting. Seeing it
yeah.
all makes sense, and I think a lot of people are gonna end up following along.
Well, it's good. I'm glad to hear that from you. There are very few people who knew about this ahead of time. Um, and it's nice to be able to start talking to people about it now and start getting feedback from them. And I think I know we're going to lose some people that it's not going to fit for them, but we've tried to make a series that if you just want to travel a little and go to one or two events that are close to you, great, do that, no problem. Um,
Yeah.
but if you want to travel to four events and travel a little more and go to four events, then you've really got a better shot at getting in the classic and getting into AOI. And I hope that's not too much of an ask for them. I hope it's not asking them for too much travel. Honestly, it's less travel than Jonathan Bush and Trey Potts and Chris Williams and Ed French did this year. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I think they'll be okay. I mean, everyone that I talked to this last season, they were all willing to travel. Like that was some of their goals for next year was to travel more and go to these other states and try
Well,
events.
that's one thing that got us thinking about this. It's really cool when we have people come and travel and hang out. We get to meet other anglers that we've seen online, but we haven't met them in person, and it creates this new rapport and camaraderie that was hard to do from just online. Um, and this encourages that even more. So yeah, I'm hopeful that that's what's going to happen. Is we're going to get a bigger, more cohesive community out of it.
It is a good community. I'm blown away at how good these people are.
Yes.
Great,
Yes.
and they're good at fishing. Nice people. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and it's the thing that's great about the kayak tournament community too is it's not quite so cutthroat like the bass boat world. we're all pretty friendly and get along well. I mean, we have our bumps here and there, of course, things happen, but generally, it's really a good camaraderie and good rapport. You know, Brandon Hua is a good one because he fished the bass boat tournament stuff, and he just loves doing the kayak tournaments now. And I've talked to him about it. He's like, it's very different. It's so much more embracing and friendly. Um, you know, not to put down the bass boat guys. They do great, fantastic events with lots of money, big sponsorship, and really super events that are well done. But I mean, I guess that's the question. Like when we get bigger and there's more money on the line and everything, does it get a little bit more private? And people are like less willing to share their secrets and stuff. We'll see.
Right, money changes
Yeah.
things.
Well, you
Are
know,
you guys
Brandon,
prepared for that too? Like, as far as, like, cheating goes? Like, I mean,
we
you've had a lot of experience, so
that's the worst thing about being a tournament director is I have to think like a cheater. So we have to put things in place to try to really root out any potential for cheating. And we're hyper focused on that and looking out for it and doing everything that we can to prevent that from happening. Thankfully, you know, weights in fish isn't an issue for us.
that was the craziest thing I've ever
Stuff
seen.
lead down walleye, you know, it doesn't all, you know, all the non-fishing people send me that. They're like, oh, look. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't really affect us because they put all the weights they want in the fish. It's not
Right.
gonna score any better. But
We got
yeah,
people cutting tail or something. I think I
that's
read.
it. And you know, that's happened. Those things have happened, but we're kind of aware of all the things that people do, and we do reserve the right to do polygraph tests on people. And as we move forward, we may start doing mandatory polygraphs too. For um, not every time, but periodically, we'll do polygraphs for people that are winning or placing in the top three or something, just to keep things honest. You don't know if you're going to get tested, so is it worth the risk?
Right. That makes sense too.
Yeah,
Keep
we don't
fair.
like to dwell on it. We don't like to put it out there too much because it's kind of the dark side of this. But you know, I'm hopeful that with the way we do our tournaments, that the chance of that is limited, and especially the chance that it's really going to make the difference in somebody winning an event. You got to cheat pretty hard to win an event.
It's almost not even worth it. It's like it's too time consuming to even think about how to go about it.
Yeah, it's bad energy. Putting all that energy into figuring out how to game the system
Yeah.
is not good. But yeah, we're aware of it. We're watching out for everybody in that regard because you know we don't want that happening on our watch.
Makes sense. For sure. Six event. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great. Because people did say they wanted to travel. A lot more people said they wanted to qualify for the classic, and this gives them more opportunities
Hey,
to do just
took them at
that.
their word, right? Took them at their
Right.
word and give them what they asked for. That's you know they say you got to give them
And
what
then
they want, and that's what we're doing.
that is true. Everybody's been asking for all these big events to come out to the West Coast, and you're
Yeah.
bringing it to them now.
Well, I think the sponsorship stuff's going to be killer this year too. I've already got uh, a commitment from NRS what they're sending. They're sending some great stuff, and with the smaller number of events, you got a lot better chance of winning stuff, and we can do bigger prizes for the gear drawing and stuff. So yeah, even if you're just coming out to have fun and hang and maybe win some cool stuff, there's a good chance to do that.
It is cool. It'll be interesting to see how the everyone's feedback is about it.
Yeah,
I
I'll find
think I'm
out at the banquet, especially after they get a beer or two in them. I can get the real truth on how they feel about it. But you know, I'll take it. I'll take all criticism, good, bad, and indifferent.
oh yeah. I don't yeah. I'll have to message you on Saturday or Sunday, see how it went. I really am curious. I want to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it all sounds exciting.
Oh,
Man.
and speaking of the banquet on Saturday, if anybody is thinking about getting involved, they can come out. It's not. I mean, this isn't going to go out before that, so it's a little too late. But we do encourage people to come out and check it out if they're looking to get involved. So maybe we'll have some new faces there too. We'll see.
If somebody new was to like get gain an interest in kayak fishing in the Northwest, what would you suggest they go to first, like to find more information?
Well, as far as KFNW, our website, which will be, that'll be updated soon for the upcoming year with all this info we're talking about. But, reading through the rules are going to change a little, but nothing major, just the structure of the rules. And, with the online's changing, a lot of that has to change as well. But yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just knowing the rules. And then there's great resources of people. Greg Blanchard's a great resource for looking at stuff. Fluke Master, Gene Jensen's got lots of great stuff about kayak fishing and specifically tournament fishing. Um, Chad Hoover still has some good stuff on his YouTube channel about it. There's lots of resources out there that you can look at. Brandon's channel is a great one as well. Um,
I just
and
watched his this morning. Kind of curious to see what kind of
oh
boat he's
yeah,
going to go with.
yeah. I told him I expect him to get a Titan X. That's, since I'm on the native team. That's the way I encourage him all the time. But yeah, I suspect I know where he'll go. But yeah, there was a little clickbait in that to get people to look at it for sure.
You have to these days.
Yeah, you know very well. Everything's changing. That's what the headline of this should be like.
I've
Is
been
kayak
thinking about like
over in
thumbnails
the
and titles.
Northwest? Um,
Is kayak fishing over?
yeah. Oh no.
That'd be funny. I think I'll just title it like normal. I think because you know what I mean. Everyone's
Yeah, yours aren't very clickbaity in general, but yeah, as far as the cutthroat secret stuff too, like Brandon and Greg, I've talked to both of them about that. I mean, they film their tournaments, so they can't lie about what they threw. Like, oh yeah, I caught him on this. We saw you. We saw what you were throwing. Yeah,
it's so true.
yeah,
He even puts pictures of it on the bottom of the screen of what he's using.
yeah. Oh yeah, Greg does. He puts that little graphic
That
down there,
is
which is
cool.
cool.
That's cool. You got to talk to him, meet him.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We've talked a few times. There was a little brouhaha a couple years ago with the native event. He just about won it, but he caught the fish, like 10 seconds later than we hadn't been as crystal clear about the rules. And everybody kind of changed that after that happened, where now when we specify when your fish have to be uploaded by, it's not just a minute, it's to the seconds. We say 3:00:00, or in an event of the native ones now, we'll say like 2:59:59 p.m. will be the time that it has to be uploaded to the second, because we just hadn't been really clear about it with that. And so there was a little bit of concern on Greg's part that he was within the rules of what we had, but he was concerned about perception on it. And so he just forfeited, and Damien got the prize that year. But
Damien
it's
Tao.
made changes to the whole community after that happened. Everybody got more focused on these seconds to the second.
Wow. I never even thought about that.
Oh, yeah. You've got time to upload it, but you got to get that photo taken before the line's out time. And if the line's out is 2:59:59 and you catch it at 3:00 and 3 seconds, you're too late.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. What a situation to be in, though.
Who would have guessed? To catch a deal breaker fish in those final seconds like that? I mean, that's pretty exciting.
Man, good times though. Makes for a cool story.
It does.
I think it's all the questions I had. Did you have anything else you want to add?
I'm sure I forgot some stuff, but we covered most of it. And of course, as always, if people have questions, they can reach out to me directly. Jim Davis and Matthew Burdick and I are going to be the tournament directors for 2025. Chris Bordas from Idaho rolled off this year. He retired. He wants to fish. He wants to be able to fish and participate, but it's a lot of work. So yeah, and as always, we're looking for more people to get involved and help us out and volunteer. Small or large commitment, doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a tournament director, um, which is a much larger commitment. But yeah, we're always looking for help, and yeah, we do need some help in Idaho with some of the stuff there. In the meantime, one of us will be going there and doing the tournament directing for the events that are going to be in Idaho. But yeah, we'll get it covered one way or the other.
Very cool. Yeah, he was a good guy. Everybody liked him from what I was reading.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Fantastic. He was always really easy for me to work with.
Yeah, I think that's all I have. It's gonna be exciting, I think.
Super.
It'll
Yeah.
be it'll be interesting to see what people say. And
We'll see how it goes. See how the signups will go. I'm going to have, as soon as we get the permits. That's the other great thing is with this few events. As soon as we get the permits nailed down, they'll be on TourneyX right away for people to start signing up.
awesome. And we'll start talking about it probably in the next week. About the schedule, call some people. Yeah.
Good. Good.
It's
Thanks so
good.
much.
Well, thanks for coming on, man, for
I
sure.
appreciate you promoting us.
That's fun. I love it. Yeah, I think that's all I got. You got anything else for that?
All good.
No? Thanks for coming on. Yeah, I do appreciate it for sure.
Thank you.